Oh, fellow adventurers, it's Mike Dooley, spiritual tune-up on a very rainy Friday here in Florida. Hope you're doing fantastic, ready for the weekend. Uh, I'm excited to dive into one of the most bodacious spiritual tune-ups yet. What happens when we die? Thanks, everybody. Almost every day this week, I've been answering your questions, either posted in Instagram or Facebook, where I simultaneously broadcast each morning. And they make for some juicy content. So, a little story here. When one of my nieces was probably 4 or 5 years old, she was learning about death and dying and God and heaven and blah, blah, blah. And she asked my sister, her mom, constantly, what happens when we die? And, the normal answers would follow. Well, one day my sister was driving my niece somewhere, and it was just the two of them in the car. My niece was, of course, in a child seat in the back, and suddenly she blurted out, "Mommy, Mommy, I know what happens when we die." And my sister said, "Oh, what, honey? What happens when we die?" And she said, "We go back to normal." Wow. From the mouths of babes. Is that not the best answer ever? So, what is normal? If we roll back to my very first spiritual tune-up titled Adam, Eve, and Coronavirus, I painted a picture drawing from that famous biblical story uh, of what the truth is and what I believe that story was trying to tell us, that we are all truly the eyes and the ears of God Almighty come alive in the dream of life. And it's just that the price of admission for living in these sacred, hallowed jungles of time and space, where we mandatorily had to forget fleetingly that we are of God, by God, pure God, therefore everywhere, always at once. Time is an illusion, space is an illusion. Scientists will tell you this. Almost everything I'm sharing with you, and truly I think everything I'm sharing with you, can be arrived at through reflective, deductive reasoning. Go within. How could we not be of God? How could life be a random chance accident? There's intelligence everywhere. There's no trace of us evolving from an amoeba. None, skeletally speaking, or any other ways on planet Earth. Consciousness does not arise from matter. Okay? Matter arises from consciousness. That makes sense. It just proves itself, if you will. And for many, I'm naive. And for others, this is going to resonate deeply. So if we are of God, by God, pure God, and we chose to fleetingly forget that we're everywhere, always at once, so that we could be here versus there, now versus then, have versus have not, then it would only make sense that this amnesia of our true source would bring about adventure, desire, opportunities to fall in love when we thought there was none, and the games begin. Now, where in that equation is there a big red devil? If there was a big red devil, it would have to be made of and pure 100% God, because there's nothing that can't be pure divinity. And God is big enough, I trust you sense, that there's been no mistakes, okay? That things haven't gone wobbly. That it's like, oh my God, I created this bastion of perfection and now it's gone to hell. It's like anything and everything was and could have been foreseen. And if, in the most impossible of ways, something went wrong and part of God became rebellious, God's bigger. God could crush it. Not that that ever would have happened to begin with. To think that there's a devil running amok in the physical universe or in the ethereal world would be tantamount to thinking that God has cockroaches in his kitchen. There ain't no kitchen, there ain't no roaches, and there ain't no devil, never has been. There's only God. We're all one. There's only love. And let me add to that, although it's highly redundant, there's only heaven. And it's here right now. And hell is not knowing that you're in heaven. Hell is being so hypnotized by the illusions, whether it's the red apple, metaphorically, that Adam and Eve bit into, thinking it went from a thought form into reality and something to contend with, or it's thinking that you're vulnerable. You're not. It's thinking that you're mere mortal. You're not. It's thinking that you only have a number, a fleeting chance to get things done. You're eternal. Anything that dims pure, radiant truth, which would otherwise be experienced as total ecstasy 24/7. And this is what the yogis and the Buddhas and the Jesus Christ accomplished. Total union with their mind and the divine mind, yielding pure ecstasy. Ecstasy like indescribable joy. Anything that diminishes the true light of truth, the brilliance of truth, all of a sudden, every color of the spectrum is introduced. And the further you descend, okay, it's not up or down, but just words, doing my best. The further you descend into the Maya, as the Eastern religions would tell you, the illusions, the more scared you become, and the more fearful, and the more regret, and the more angry, and the more violent, and the more all those hideous things. That's hell. When we die, we get taken up a number of notches. We're not totally enlightened when we die. It's a different experience for everyone. They come from heaven, where we are now, go to another level of heaven, ultimately the seventh heaven. You see the analogies and the words that have been used for a long time, to all of a sudden ultimately merge our thinking, our personality, for lack of a better word, with the mind of God, which doesn't mean we dissolve and go away. As I shared earlier, we're inside the mind of God right now, and we haven't dissolved and gone away. So we will, and you will, forever be a personality essence, although more elevated for the more truth you let in. This is the whole adventure. We go from total enlightenment down here to like, wow, lions and tigers and bears. And then we actually move up into more and more love and more truth. And we learn every lesson, we play every game, we fall in love in every way. And it's all good because it's inside of God. Now, some people passing who believe that it's lights out, all done, life's random chance, there's no God, there's no intelligence, there's no devil, there's no nothing. Several books I have read, including Ramtha, the White Book, and Seth Material, have said that there is this place where souls who believe that nothing exists after life are just there kind of lying. And angels and elements all rush to help them eventually, time's an illusion. So eventually, I can only surmise, or at another level of existence, they are retrieved. For those who deeply believe in brimstone and fire, they will experience something like that until they are reached and the drama plays itself out and they are lifted higher. They're not there forever. It's a hell of their own make-believe, a hell of their own creation, just as you now live a life of your own creation. Your thoughts, beliefs, and expectations follow you onto the other side. But for most and for all, eventually, we see the truth. We feel the love. And you know what we think? When we feel all that love and we're moving into ecstasy, we're like, it was the same where I just came from, but I didn't allow myself to see it. Let me go back. I'm going to get it this time. I'm going to nail it this time. I'm going to see the beauty everywhere. I'm going to fall in love with everyone. I'm not going to, sin and not see the truth, which is what sin is. It's just an innocent mistake, not justifying people's horrific behavior. People do evil things. Evil could be said to be everywhere in the world because it's in the mind of men and women. It does not lurk as a force of its own. God would squash it out. Only good comes from every adventure into time and space, contrary to what our physical senses share with you. Obviously, there are tangents here, and I could go on and on and on in a number of different directions. If you want more of my insights, I do have a book called The Top 10 Things Dead People Want to Tell You. It's one of my favorite books that I've written, the top 10 things dead people want to tell you. And there's a lot of other great books. I mention them all the time. There's a recommended reading list at the bottom of tut.com, recommended resources. You can get there through deduction. It's common sense. It's obvious. You live in a world where you are adored, utterly adored. The truth is a breath away. You can move into that ecstasy at any time. And there you will find what you already suspect, that heaven is beneath your feet right now. Okay, everybody, lots of love. Have an amazing weekend, and I'll see you tomorrow.